Hey guys! Cycrafter here. Today, I am back for the final part of Baccano. I'm going to be covering the OVA episodes, of which there's 3, yet somehow I have 9 pages on it. I somehow have 9 pages. Huh? How's, how's that possible? I honestly don't know. So let's get into it to find out. Starting off in episode 14 in 1932. So this is after. So this section takes place after the end of the main anime, excluding the 2001 section. In 1932, Isaac and Maria have an intense moment of placing a domino in their setup when Furo almost scares them into almost knocking over the entire thing by asking what they are doing. They yell at him to be quiet, almost knocking the dominoes down themselves with their hyper energy. It's like they're really when they go hyper, they go hyper. Furo asks what they are doing with the dominoes, to which they answer they're setting them up to knock them over. When he asks what's the point of doing this, Isaac and Maria say it's just because they exist. Only for mice to call them kids because they don't know the rules of dominoes. Fair enough. But also, one of the main rules of dominoes is you set up a domino run. Randy and Pezzo are taking part in putting together the dominoes design, along with Enos, Leah Lishan, who is only she does make an appearance in the main anime, but she doesn't really have a name, so I'm mentioning her here, and Kanshiro Yaguruma. Yaguruma says he also used to play this game in his youth, but they use shogi pieces instead, which I think is another connection back to Dorara in a weird way. Like, Dorara and Baccano have these weird connections between them. I won't go into it now. I'll go into it next week for the Which Anime is Better episode that I'll be doing. But yeah, it's very interesting. Ronnie is also taking part, painstakingly placing pieces in the center, while Misa reveals he's involved too, showing Furo the design for the dominoes. Isaac and Maria celebrate the design being complete with everyone else, before ordering everyone to be quiet as they prepare to knock the dominoes down. However, Furo's curiosity accidentally sets off the chain reaction in a random spot of the design. It's like, oh, at least it turns out good, because it's a circuit, at least, so thank goodness on that. But other than that, we're good. Following some time after the train plot, because everything is in reference to the train, in a New York overcast by fog and grey clouds, which somehow cleared up by the time, it cleared up over time a bit, didn't it? That's weird. Because, in the anime, it shows, really low fog. We have a new character, Graham Spector. And he's talking about how today was supposed to be perfect for his group to show their faces in town. Instead, all Graham can do is talk about how humans grow through sorrow and sing about the wonders of the world in pleasure. But Graham doesn't want to grow up. He wants to be Peter Pan. He's surprised that lad was badly wounded and in police custody. but even more surprised that someone threw him off the train, all while throwing a massive wrench in the air and catching it. He's like, Graham is bizarrely very talented with that wrench. Like, he is tossing and catching it at speeds no one could think of. Back in 1929 Chicago, so we're still like doing the weird back and forth timeline shenanigans. Someone is replacing expensive parts for fakes and selling them. Oh, yeah. And selling them on the black market. And like, Lad's been called into the office all over this whole debacle. And this is all according to a regular customer by the name of Zacharias. His uncle wants Lad to take care of the mess, not by dealing with Zacharias, but with the automobile factory in Bendago. I probably bitched that. Lad have a word with them as permission to kill the employees, which his uncle understands entirely. Like, you do you crazy. If he's an uncle, it's like a brother's son. So what would be the would it be it would just be cousin, wouldn't it? Over at the automobile factory, Lad has fun shooting the employees with his shotgun, holding the gun to the boss's forehead, demanding to know what's going on. The boss is slow to answer, to which Lad asks if it was an unprovoked disgrace to the Rosso family. Insisting his company did nothing wrong, Lad shoves the boss into an automobile behind him and shoots the vehicle inches away from his head. Lad says the boss should be glad he's going to be killed by him, shooting another vehicle down the line. That's when Graham comes into view of Lad, revealing he caught Lad's bullet in the wrench, which, that is a very unique, like, the dude is too talented with the wrench. The boss sneaks away in the mayhem, seeing Lad and Graham being interested in each other. Graham tells Lad off for shooting a vehicle he was looking forward to dismantling with love, smacking his head into the car. Yes, that's how you show your car love. Smack your head into it to dent it harder. Because he's now in a foul mood, he attacks Lad, knocking away Lad's shotgun and showing his strength by destroying the ground with his wrench repeatedly so Lad can't talk. Lad gets irritated and shoots at Graham during a running leap over him, but Graham deflects the shot and throws his wrench like Captain America, with it returned to him after almost hitting Lad twice and bouncing off the walls. Like, this dude is the Captain America of wrenches. Of monkey wrenches, to be exact. All the while, Lad calls Graham a thief for protecting his boss, but when Graham returns Lad's fire with accuracy to graze his cheek, Graham mocks him by calling a thief of thieves. Graham runs at Lad with his wrench, but instead of retaliating, Lad throws away the shotgun and takes the wrench to the side with almost no reaction. Now with Graham in grabbing range, Lad tosses Graham across the warehouse, bouncing off a vehicle in the process and leaving a dent in the wall. It's like, the strength these two have just to be like, just throwing each other, throwing wrenches. Jeez. Lad prepares to shoot Graham, only not to when Graham tells him to do so, explaining he loves to kill people when there isn't the slightest chance he'll die, but hates killing people that fight that want to die. Ultimately, he likes Graham because he's cheeky and that only he can kill him. Instead, killing the boss with a long-range shot. Presently, Graham is devastated that Lad's plan to mess up New York got ruined, screaming and swinging his wrench around like a madman. In 1931, during the arrival of the Flying Pussyfoot, so the traitor still somehow evolved, come on, and the reunion of everyone, Elmer watches from a distance, glad to see that Miser looks well before leaving. Later, he manages to secure some time with Huey, with his smile money as the bribery method. You just flashing the white molars and you can get in anywhere. He reveals he only came to see Huey smile, but Huey wonders how his smile is going to change anything, and Elmer sees it will change his world. Well, Elmer says it will change his world. Huey says he wants Elmer to meet his daughter Chane, wanting to see if he'll maintain his own smile after meeting her. In a flashback to 1922, Chane confirms her love for Huey and that she'll do anything for him. Huey regards her as his daughter, protector, and teacher, all at the same time, saying that's why she was created. He reveals to her about his immortality, telling to remember it and never write it down or say it. She promises to do so, which makes him happy, and says he'll give something in return. Anything she wants. He wonders what Elmer's answer would be if he was there in place of his little experiment. Surprised at her loyalty when she asked him to remove her voice to keep the secret secure. It is interesting that, like, China's, like, full, like, 100% on board with keeping this secret. Elmer has left the cell, leaving Huey alone to wonder if Chane will ever find happiness and what Elmer's answer will be. Outside, Elmer notes that happiness and sadness can come at any time, without warning, and catch someone unaware. Meanwhile, Chane reads a newspaper that says Huey has been found guilty of treason and moved from Newfoundland to New York. Well, that works out conveniently for Huey. During Graham's tantrum in the abandoned warehouse, he manages to dismantle an entire vehicle while keeping it above his head with 2 wrenches. It's like, huh? Impressed with his own ability, Graham announces he's overcome sadness and asks this man to tell him a good story. One of them mentions how the people that arrived after they did, another group of gangsters going in and out of Millionaire Row, while Graham sets about dismantling something else in the warehouse. Graham believes these gangsters must be robbing Millionaire Row and wants to steal their earnings by stealing and dismantling it in the warehouse. However, the man says that the gangsters seem to be friendly with the Genoa family, and Graham recalls that Dallas's elder brother drowned last year, as well as learning that Dallas is missing too, meaning Eve owns the estate. Graham believes the newcomer gangsters are blackmailing Eve, and the man suggests they take over the newcomer gangsters, but Graham says no to that plan with a punch to the gut. He sees that kind of plan as cowardly and freeloading, which would leave him with nothing to destroy. When the man doesn't answer because he can't, Graham kills him with the wrench. It's like, don't get on this guy's bad side. That's basically all that is. Rachel finishes her report to the director of the Daily Days, who suggests she visits a honey shop at the entrance to Little Italy if she wants more information about Cheslaw. Following his lead, Rachel finds Cheslaw alive, walking hand in hand with Venus. Rachel is shocked Cheslaw is alive and that she says he should be dead, so he takes her to a private alleyway to discuss what she saw and introduces himself as Thomas. His ability to lie about his name confirms she's not an immortal, and he asks why she came to see him. Mentioning she works for the Daily Days, Cheslaw reveals his real name, knowing about them being info brokers that will tell her the truth either way. The name distinction confuses Rachel further, and since she's oblivious to anything about immortals, he starts with explaining what an immortal is. Which, it's not a hard explanation, it's basically, oh yeah, we could live forever and we don't age. However, there's also some versions that do age because they have the incomplete immortal potion, or the immortal drink. Back at the abandoned warehouse, it turns out that Graham was trolling the man, and starts feeling guilty for making him feel faint. So he didn't kill the guy. Turns out, his attention quickly turns back to the newcomer delinquents, having a similar feeling to the night before a vacation. Asking about their leader, and another of his followers mentions seeing their leader at a hospital, mentioning a detail of a sword tattoo on his face while looking like a crybaby. Yeah, that's Jacuzzi. Graham fixates on the sword tattoo detail, figuring out it's Jacuzzi that his follower saw, suggesting they catch Jacuzzi to receive the 5,000 reward from the Russos. The first part of the plan to kidnap Eve, which excites him. The first part of the plan is to kidnap Eve, which excites him, but he does reiterate that he likes older women. He hopes this will lure in Jacuzzi, and if it does, he'll be theirs for the taking. The one that identified Jacuzzi is confused about how the idea is bittersweet, and Graham explains it's sweet for them and bitter for Jacuzzi's gang. Yeah, that does make sense. Now let's go into episode 15, which has one of the funniest openings to an episode ever. Because, I wish I could show it. But in 1926, Nice was working on one of her explosives, making a bad choice of placing her face over the bowl, which exploded from the chemical reaction to the gunpowder, leaving her face and arms scarred. I absolutely find that, like, it's absolutely funny of that moment, because it's like, she's like face down, very delicate, one singular drop, like, I had to stop and laugh at how ridiculous that was, but also knowing on the other side that it is how she gets her scars. And loses an eye as well. Five years later, Jacuzzi is recovering in the hospital and talks with Nice when Nick and another of Jacuzzi's gang burst into the room to tell him they sold the explosives for a total of 100k. The empty hand grenades were also sold for 200 apiece, but then Nick changes the topic to something troublesome, mentioning they picked up Chane and brought her to the hospital too. Jacuzzi introduces himself to Chane, asking for a name, to which she just stares in silence. Later on, Jacuzzi says the hospital won't give him permission to leave yet, and tells Chane she can keep reading her newspaper, saying he's not fond of them, before trying to justify it that he's not making fun of them. Remembering what the newspaper she was reading says, he asks Chane if Huey is her father, and says she doesn't have to answer when he sees her reaction. Grabbing a nearby notepad and pen, Chane answers his question as well, stating she's one of the terrorists that attacked the train. Jacuzzi already figured that out, and Chane writes why they didn't turn her in to the police, and it's because his gang is also avoiding the police, similar to the black suit terrorists. He also sees Chane as a good person, even if he doesn't know if she is, just wanting to be friends with her. Chane's last message before she leaves the hospital room is that she doesn't understand Jacuzzi's gang, which he thinks means Niece and Donnie. Okay. Rachel follows Cheslaw to behind OVA as he wraps up his explanation of immortals, but Rachel still doesn't believe him, so he demonstrates his ability by cutting his arm, and it heals immediately, making Rachel believe him instantly. It's like, oh, okay, yeah. Cheslaw still wants her to treat him as a child, with the two smiling at each other until Vino interrupts them. Vino states he was at OVA to meet with Firo, but Firo was gone with two people by the time he arrived. He inquires into whether Cheslaw and Rachel are friends, with them not recognizing him, because last time they saw him, he was covered in blood. I wish I was joking about that. My podcast episodes prove exactly my point. Meanwhile, Chane thinks about her conversation with Vino back on the Flying Pussyfoot. Nick is worried that being associated with Chane will lead to trouble later on because she is one of the black suit terrorists. John doesn't have an issue with her, and Niece has her suspicions, but Jacuzzi made his choice for her to be part of the gang. Chane interrupts their meeting, and Niece says a package arrived for her, which she opens to reveal a long white dress. She discovers that the dress has built-in leather straps to hold the knives, realizing it's from Vino, and it's the first gift she has received from anyone but Huey. Not knowing how to feel about receiving a dress from Vino, recalling the fight between Vino and Lad, and not understanding him or why he proposed to her, not sensing a lie in his words. Okay, yeah, Chane doesn't know how to feel with all that madness. Needs to ask if everything is alright, but all Chane can do is shake her head in confusion, so Niece suggests she goes outside for fresh air. Niece sees her outside, followed by Nick and other members of Jacuzzi's gang. Unfortunately, Graham and the man he nearly killed are watching the front door from their car, with Graham being bored and manhandling the man's face. As Chane passes by, the man mistakes her for Eve, while Graham flips on his boredom statement, saying there's no boredom in the world. The man notes that Chane and her entourage have entered Central Park, so they go into Central Park and kidnap Chane. Nick and Niece race over to Jacuzzi's room to tell him that Chane was kidnapped by someone with a monkey wrench, which Nick got personally familiar with when Graham smacked him in the side with it. Graham left them a note saying they've kidnapped Chane thinking she's Eve, and to save her, they have to bring all their money to the abandoned warehouse alone. Jacuzzi is alarmed by the kidnappers making a basic mistake of kidnapping the wrong person, but has still gone through with following the ransom note orders. Even when Nick tries to talk him out of it, Jacuzzi says it's like destiny that she washed up in the river like Nick, and he can't see Chane as a bad person. Nick states that Graham is no average punk, but Jacuzzi sees it as disrespectful not to follow the order from the ransom note. I don't know why I wrote random. Back at the abandoned warehouse, Graham thinks Eve is so frightened that she isn't saying anything. Graham says that's a good thing since a lot of energy is expended when vocalizing emotions, which is more when it's fear and suffering. He concludes with the idea that silence is a self-defense mechanism that is brought about by human instinct, asking for praise from his men. Fed up with Graham's constant talking, she stands up and pulls out a knife, ready to attack Graham. He's surprised to see Eve defending herself, mentioning how a knife seems too big for self-defense. Chane goes for the first strike, which Graham blocks and figures out that she can't be Eve because she's not an amateur, making her interesting to him. His increasing excitement makes him exclaim he wouldn't be surprised if she was an alien from Mars or sprouted more arms. Pushing Chane away to toss his wrench into the air creates a false opening Chane takes to try attacking again, only to get flung to the ground by the wrench, which she gets back up from with a backwards flip. Graham once again says he's having fun, asking Chane to join forces with him to make a pleasant story when Jacuzzi shows up to stop the fight. He's like, stop the fight, let her go. Jacuzzi didn't bring much money, he's hoping the amount will suffice for Chane's freedom. Graham didn't expect Jacuzzi to act so quickly, and explains he doesn't understand why money is a good thing, more liking a story where people are brought to ruin over it. He notes Jacuzzi is actually empty-handed, which Jacuzzi says is correct because he's offering himself to Graham to give to the Russos for the reward money. Back in 1926, Niece hides under her blanket with her right eye and ear bandaged, along with her neck and arms. When she sees her reflection, she starts crying, which is interrupted by a knock at a window. Realizing it's Jacuzzi from his voice, Niece is reluctant to open the curtains, only to see Jacuzzi sporting his sword tattoo when she does. Asking why he got the tattoo, Jacuzzi explains that his face will stand out as much as Niece's, and she cries tears of joy, which Jacuzzi mistakes as sadness. Niece shares this story with Chane back when Chane was trying on the white dress, adding that there are many friends around him all the time. Presently, Chane is brought out of her memories by Graham, saying how interesting Jacuzzi is, with how he's simultaneously fun and sad. Graham muses about there's a thin line between pleasure and sadness, but Jacuzzi managed to shove his heart between them. But now he has a conundrum, because he's also enjoying fighting Chane, but doesn't want to disrespect Jacuzzi's actions. Asking Chane what her choice is, she raises her knife, wanting to continue fighting, with both assuming their fighting stances once again. Jacuzzi doesn't want them to fight when a sudden explosion goes off, revealing Jacuzzi's gang. Donnie asks why Nice blew up the wall when the building was already open, but Nick's defends her, saying Nice wanted to blow something up. Graham is annoyed they're at the abandoned warehouse since the letter said Jacuzzi had to come alone. Nice explains that Jacuzzi did come alone, and then she did, followed by everyone else, to which Graham concedes they are smart. It's like, oh, you got me there! You got me there! Both Jacuzzi and Chane realize that there's someone else in their group that's not part of the gang, and Vino steps out and congratulates Jacuzzi for being able to isolate his voice in the gang. Graham walks up to Vino and asks who he is, and then he introduces himself as the current rail tracer, formerly Claire Stanfield, explaining he has business with Chane. Hearing Vino is rail tracer makes Jacuzzi collapse from shock, with Nice racing over to him. Despite having a knife to his chest, Vino talks to Chane as calmly as ever, asking if she intends to kill him, all while blocking Graham from what's going on. Graham's like the annoying kid in the background that's like, hey, pay attention to me, pay attention to me! And then you got the camera person in front that's like, no, 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 no. Vino wants to make a proper confession of his feelings for Chane, saying he loves her from the bottom of his heart, troubling or not, and asking her to marry him. He wonders if if she's worried he'll shatter her world by entering it, saying it's not that fragile, and in fact will grow more, and he'll protect it if it threatens to collapse. He also adds that someone saying what he's saying is usually not trustworthy, but adds he's not a normal person. It's like, no short, Sherlock. Glancing over at Jacuzzi's gang, Chane wonders why they're going to such lengths for her, who's not even family or well known to them. She thinks about why Vino is declaring his love for her, and that he's the first one to ever do so in her life, not even from her own father. The moment is ruined by Graham slamming his wrench into an oil drum, talking about a story beyond comprehension, unable to understand it, so he won't try to, wanting to continue his fight with Chane. Vino is fine with the fight continuing, slightly distracted from Chane's lack of answer to his proposal, but instead decides to fight for opposing Chane. Graham is surprised that Vino is so arrogant, with the only person matching him being Lad, saying that Vino's arrogance should be below Lad's, otherwise they won't come. Vino asks if Graham means Lad Russo, which surprises Graham. And he reveals he knows that Lad fell off the train because he was the one that dropped him. Graham is astonished by this, which quickly turns into anger, throwing his wrench at Vino, who smiles with malice and joy. I'm gonna get hit by this wrench. Psych! And we are at the final episode now. As well, somehow this is 4 pages or 3 pages. The flying pussyfoot incident is being hidden from public knowledge, passengers being paid massive amounts of money to keep silent. Nicholas reports that the source of the money appears to be from Manfred and the Nebula Company, which leads to speculation that part of the incident was planned. Interesting. He also brings up that, despite it being unconfirmed, there's word that Manfred visited Huey, saying there seems to be a rivalry between them. All this leads Nicholas to believe the incident was an experiment, but doesn't know what it was for, that Eileen and the director would know more. The director tells Nicholas off for being cynical, that knowing and sharing the secret means exposing himself to danger too, mentioning the encounter Nicholas had with Vino. He reminds Eileen and Nicholas they should focus only on doing their job, which is gathering information without their inquisitiveness and curiosity. They continue their reports on the minor details in relation to the flying pussyfoot. Nicholas says that Lad is cooperating with the police, but is saying the murders he committed were in self-defense. Lad asks the investigator in his recovery room mid-interview if he knows Huey, asking which prison he's going to, getting an answer of most likely Alcatraz, which is San Francisco. Really? That's not New York. But I guess they'd like taking him to New York in the process of taking him to San Francisco to take him to Alcatraz, if that makes sense. Eileen's report is on Jacuzzi's gang being hired as witness for the Giannard family, as per the recommendation of the Flying Pussyfoot's head chef. Jacuzzi was supposed to be released soon, but the drama with Graham left him hospitalized for longer after aggravating his injuries. The director asks about Eve, but Nicholas says Mr. Sugarcube is the best person to report on her. And back at the docks of the Hudson River, Eve is hoping they find her brother, while Manfred and Bartolo watch her. Bartolo wants to let Eve meet with Dallas, seeing no negative impact in doing so. But Manfred says they can't have any information leaks. Offering everyone a sugar cube, Nicholas and Eileen decline, but the director accepts, making Mr. Sugarcube the only person ever to see the director's face in the anime. Not even the audience sees the director's face, which is honestly amazing. Carrying on the conversation, the director asks about Rachel, and Eileen states she went to see Cheslaw. Nicholas adds that at the station she had an interaction with Mary and Natalie, as well as Manfred giving her an envelope of money which she's forced to accept. Nicholas makes a joke about Rachel not needing to hitchhike on trains for free, only for the director to shut him down because she has her own circumstances. Seeing Nicholas not caring about Rachel's hitchhiking actions, the director lays out what happened to Rachel's father. A train accident that occurred due to a damaged part when Rachel was young was blamed all on Rachel's father by the railway company. Despite his firing, Rachel's father still loved trains, and this imprinted onto Rachel both his grudge and love for them. Rachel decides to get rid of the money by buying train tickets with all of it, irrelevant of destination, all to pay off her free rides on the trains. In change of the topic to Vino, the director asks Nicholas about him, but Nicholas doesn't want to talk about it. Back behind Alvere, Vino is disappointed that Cheslaw doesn't recognize him by his voice. When Cheslaw does remember him, he backs up in fear at the memory, while Vino reveals to Rachel he knows she paid off her tickets. That's when she remembers her interaction with him when he asks for a ticket. Cheslaw takes off in fear, while Rachel asks if he really is the conductor, but he's not in that business anymore. Vino invites Rachel to lunch to ask her for advice on how to convince another girl to marry him. Meanwhile, back inside Alvira, the domino is full as everyone watches in excitement and hopes it works. Fiore following it with joy. after he was the klutz that started it off. Isaac and Miria call Firo a dominist, but he doesn't care, jumping and celebrating. A dominus is at least better than a dominatrix. During all the celebration, a silver-haired woman leaves Avire, closing the door behind her, which makes Misa look over. Vino asks Rachel how he should confess his feelings to the girl he likes, but she won't help until he tells her his name. Stating his name was Claire Stanfield, he wants to change his... But stating his name was Claire Stanfield, he wants to change his name, asking Rachel to call him Rail Tracer. Now that names have been shared, Vino asks his question again, saying that any advice from her is good, and that the girl he's interested in is more abnormal than Rachel. Her first advice to him is to fix that insensitivity he has. Yeah. Rachel asks if Vino is acquainted with the girl he likes, and he answers that they met on the train for the first time, and that he left her a message that she'll be in Manhattan. He carries on, saying the girl he likes might still want to kill him, or does she actually love him? Saying he'll still love her even if she tried to kill him. Rachel is amused by this thinking, and he continues mulling over the possibilities. Fino states he's proposed to many girls without a sense of shame, knowing this time was different with everything that happened on the train. Suddenly, Vino bolts upright, talking about the first time he said he'd help her, believing that him helping her then might not have been sympathy, but actually love at first sight. Rachel smiles and notes that this is the first time she's seen Vino as a human, and Vino adds he's sometimes confused about himself. Either way, he's confident he'll succeed in the pursuit of love, even if it takes his entire life to convince her so, revealing he knows where she is. Back on the night of Eve's confrontation with the Gendel brothers, Nicholas followed them and was listening through the door. However, Vino disrupts his eavesdropping and slams Nicholas against the metal rail, stating he knows who Nicholas is, revealing who he is to Nicholas's shock. Explaining why he's there, Vino prepares to punish Nicholas for putting Eve in danger, along with asking some questions, ignoring Nicholas's pleas that there was a misunderstanding. Yeah. I did put her in danger, but there's a misunderstanding. Repeating what he did to June to the flying pussyfoot, Vino tells Nicholas to tell him where Chane is if he wants to live. Rachel is only mildly perturbed by his actions, saying that at least it's reliable. Well, he casually moves on figuring out if Chane will share the same feelings for him. She suggests that Vino sends her a letter in the present, which intrigues him. Jumping forward to Chane's kidnapping, Nick reads the ransom note from Graham and sends the two gangs to get Nice, all while Vino sees the entire scene unfold. He notices Chane was wearing the dress he sent her, not expecting her to wear it so soon, which makes him so happy. The only question left is who the mechanic in blue is, and should he chase him, but is confident that Chane could beat him. He decides to go to the warehouse, time skipping to that night, and the fight with Graham. Instead of dodging, Vino catches the wrench and throws it back at Graham with the same ferocity, who catches it as well. Graham charges at Vino, with intent to strike Vino down, but Vino jumps out of the way and lands on the wrench with grace. It's like, ding! Continuing his onslaught, Vino dodges all of Graham's attacks, ending in handstanding on Graham's wrench. Graham concedes that only Lad could beat Vino and will someday kill him, to which Vino thanks him for the warning that's actually a death sentence from Graham. On his way out, Graham says he likes Jacuzzi, letting him use the warehouse whenever he wants, but will still go after him when Vino isn't around, leaving Jacuzzi confused on if he's good or bad. Nice is just satisfied to know everyone's okay, curious about who Vino is, but Jacuzzi tells her to leave them alone because Chane looks happy. As the silver-haired woman leaves Avere, she passes Ronnie smoking, along with someone else who stops her to call out that she didn't greet him. She recognizes him as Elma from the Avena Avis, while he recognizes her as Sylvie, saying she looks exactly how he pictured a mature Sylvie would look like. Sylvie explains that she took some time to refine herself, placing herself in her 20s for a stopped age. Perfect speakeasy age as well, as we saw in the backstory. It's like the images flashed by Ronnie the demon. Like the demon, yeah. She already knows that Salad got eaten, much like Elma, noting how Furo looks similar to Grito. Elma wants Sylvie to smile, but she says she's fine. Explains she wanted to become one with Grito before she came to Little Italy, but seeing Furo smile changed her mind. Sylvie has to leave, letting Elma know she makes a living through singing, saying they'll meet again at some point while she's working. Elma continues on to Avere, slapping Ronnie on the back, recognizing him by his unique aura he carries, and thanks him for keeping his promise. That wish Elma made back in 1711 was to look after Miser in a human form until he can laugh again since Greta died. He wants to see Ronnie smile before he disappears, but he has many other people to make smile first. As Elma leaves, he wants Ronnie to keep looking after Miser, and Ronnie says he was just interested, not in keeping the promise. Gustave and Carol pass Elma, and she asks Gustave where the story begins and when does it end, which he says is a silly question. He correctly guesses she's still searching for a main character, and tells her to give up on the idea that stories must have a main character as well as a start and end. A real story is more about the way people relate, interact, and affect each other, and spreads throughout the world. As we see in Durara in the same universe as Baccano. It really does actually have a profound effect towards the end. Carol doesn't understand his philosophy, and he apologizes while saying some things can only be expressed in certain ways. She's left wondering why there shouldn't be endings to stories, letting on the answer of it being easy to draw attention by leaving room for a sequel. Which there can't be, really. In response, he gives her 3 points, saying he can think of many answers as to why stories shouldn't have endings. To keep it simple for Carol, open-ended stories are fun. Carol brings up that some people would be upset by a story's lack of ending, but Gustave counters that it gives people something to look forward to. Yeah, that's how we get like fan fictions. And Carol sees a white mouse running across the street and smiles at it, only to be horrified by seeing it die, and looks away. Gustave asks if she remembers the mouse, telling her to not look away, and looks back at it to see it regenerate and run away into the sewer. He asks Carol to imagine where and how the mouse has lived until now, and into the future. In doing so, she announces she's having fun, earning her round of praise from him. Characters are shown doing whatever they are doing in the moment. Elmer walking around smiling, Ronnie enjoying his smoke, Sylvie turning heads with how gorgeous she is. Honestly, I have to agree. Graham is shown leaving the warehouse with his men, and Jacuzzi's gang is watching the moment between Vino and Chane. Vino asks Chane if they can start out as friends, and if she'll fall in love with him. Lad stares at the ceiling of his prison room, his face morphing from vacant to anticipation. And somehow, Dallas escaped his concrete prison cell, meaning Eve never got to see him. Which, that particular detail is only explained in the manga. Because there is actually technically more story that they could do for Baccano. Like, imagine if they did do a sequel to Baccano. That would be interesting to see. Because it depends on if you're keeping it before Durara, which you sort of do if you're following stuff from Baccano. Or it might just be like more OVA episodes that can episodes. Enos and Chesley walk around New York. The Gandalf brothers are prepared to play poker, and Rachel throws all her newly bought train tickets in the trash, happy with the weight that's off her shoulders. Like, not even gonna give them to other people, huh? Nicholas and Aline leave the director's office and share a grin before leaving each other scowling. Huey sits in his cell with an empty smile, and everyone in Avere is still celebrating the Domino creation, which is a dragon. The White Mouse is the last character shown, going off on his next adventure. Back in 1930, Isaac and Maria make their escape from the police after leaving Avire, as indicated by the priest and nun outfits they're still wearing. Isaac starts throwing away the Genoa fortune, shouting, "Merry Christmas!" To which Maria says he's a month early. So wait, oh my gosh. Is Isaac and Maria the reason why we start selling the decorations so early? Everyone stops to grab the money, even the police, leading to multiple fender benders, which stops the FBI agents from following Isaac and Maria in their car. He sees that action as making up for at least 50 robberies, and Maria agrees, saying that Mr. Genoa must be jumping for joy. Isaac then comes up with the plan to go to California to mine for gold and steal from Mother Earth. So that's how we ended up with that. And I love the fact that we have this scene just here, like, at the very end. Instead of, like, a normal ending of, like, hey, this is what everyone's doing. No. We leave it off before even the train. Like, we leave it off in, like, the middle of the story. Or right before the story. Wait, no. it's right before the train story, but also in the middle of the story. Oh, this is why sub stories need a start and an end. Outside that, this was an awesome anime. The only downside I see with it is just how jumping it is. It cannot stay still. And some anime do have that issue of like constantly jumping around. But like Baccano is unique in the fact that it's jumping around its years for 3 different plots. And I'm not a fan of that per se. Like, it's still a good anime, but I'm just not a fan of that. It especially doesn't work for writing notes. Because like I could be writing a note at in like this one point of time, and then it suddenly is like, oh, we're in this different point of time. It's like, no, that doesn't work. But it sort of made it work. Anyways, for YouTube, links will be in the description to both the channels and Twitch for you guys to go check out. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know next video comes out. A ding. And Sakurata out.